So it's pretty obvious at this point that Cyberpunk 2077 is going to get at least one substantial expansion, and by the looks of it, the game and CD Projekt Red just broke some more sales records that we will talk about in this video. Some really amazing news for everybody who's been patiently waiting for some more content in Cyberpunk 2077. So in this video I want to talk about the brand new report from SuperData, as well as all of the implications, especially in regards to the fact that there are still ongoing issues with the game, how CD Projekt Red is getting them resolved, and even more so, how you should look at the game going forward. So if you enjoyed this video at any point, it would be super awesome if you left a like on it, and let's jump right into the news. Let's get started, of course, with this really interesting piece of information that we have again from SuperData. Now, previously we did know that the game sold at least 8 million copies before it even came out, which, according to CD Projekt Red's previous statement, not only did cover the cost of development, but even the cost of marketing, and made some more profit on top of that. And these were some numbers that we had back in December. Well, come January 2021, we now know that not only did they sell 8 million copies, they even sold over 10 million up until this point, with Cyberpunk 2077 having the biggest digital video game launch in history, and about 80% of its digital sales in December were fully on the PC. So check this out, going over the top earning titles by category in 2020 for the PC, consoles, and mobile, well, with the mobile being excluded in this case. Cyberpunk 2077 over there at the top on the PC, in front of games that actually had some of their best time periods and also being multiplayer. So in front of League of Legends, in front of World of Warcraft, which had one of its best years to date, maybe with the exception of the Legion expansion, but definitely way ahead of that, and way more than Fortnite, which is on the 8th spot. So that is actually really interesting. Meanwhile, on the console, it's just on the 3rd spot behind NBA 20K21 and Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, but you have to keep in mind the fact that not long after the game's launch, it was fully delisted from the PlayStation Network, which would have accounted for a much bigger player base. And according to SuperData, Cyberpunk had the biggest game launch of all time based on the digital revenue and digital units sold, and of course in parentheses we can see that it sold 10.2 million copies, which is absolutely insane, 80% of which were digitally and sold on the PC version. A successful marketing campaign and the reputation of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt provided the hype necessary for the CD Projekt Red title to break records despite issues including performance problems on consoles, widespread glitches, and the indefinite removal of the game from the PlayStation Store. An extremely high share of digital sales, 80%, were on the PC version, according to the website, likely due to the delisting on PlayStation and overall state of the console versions. And yes, we do know that the game just plays way better on the PC. Even I switched about 3 weeks ago on the PC version and stood on it ever since. Regardless of the short-term financial success, the critical backlash means that the developer will now have to invest significant resources in fixing the game in order to rehabilitate its image before the launch of its next titles. So literally this is the only thing CD Projekt Red has to do right now. They have enough funds to keep going, they have enough time to do it, and all they need to do is to just implement the fixes they promised and bring brand new content to the game. But this raises another very interesting point about the reason they launched the game on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Like, it makes even less sense right now why CD Projekt Red decided to push through it and sell the game on those consoles, because now it makes no sense whatsoever. Barely 20% of all of the sales were on the consoles, and out of all of these I could imagine that many of them could have been physical, so maybe even less than 20% of the sales were on the old gen of consoles, and the rest could have just been on the PlayStation 5s and Xbox Series X. So this entire situation with the backlash, with the launch debacle, with everything that's been happening since day one could have easily been avoided had CD Projekt Red simply come out, maybe like even in the past few months before release, and announce that the game would simply not be playable on the old gen and not waste so much time, effort, and put their reputation at stake. And this raises another really important question, because previously CD Projekt Red announced that one of the major focuses ahead of all of these updates that we should see in the upcoming months is the fact that they're trying to make the game as playable as possible on the old gen of consoles. So they're literally investing so many resources for less than 20% of the sales. Meanwhile, the rest of the 80% of the people who play on the PC or own the game on the PC digitally have to wait for these issues to be resolved so that they can further see content in the product that they paid for, which doesn't sound ideal. It sounds so counterintuitive that it's almost funny if it weren't to be sad at the same time. So at this point, we have to wonder, is CD Projekt Red going with the right approach at this point and just refund everybody on the PlayStation 4 and the old gen of consoles? Like, I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about that. Would you take the hit, assuming that you're playing on the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One? Would you accept a full refund knowing that at least the game would be much better in a way shorter amount of time, knowing that maybe in the future you might play it on the PlayStation 5 or Series X, assuming that you can get your hands on the console, or maybe even more so, maybe you would purchase it on the PC, but at least in that situation you would see some new content for the game and more fixes in a timely manner. But this also extends to the expansions of Cyberpunk 2077, because even though for 2021 we don't really have anything substantial outside of maybe patch 1.2 in February and then some more free DLCs up until the middle of 2021, it still means that eventually we should see some substantial expansions when it comes to this game. Now, in terms of the free DLCs that we should receive in 2021, there's still a few of these that are planned, and by the way, I'm saying DLCs as a plural because this is also the terminology that CD Projekt Red has used in the updated roadmap. So some of you guys even predicted this really well in one of the previous videos we made yesterday, like player_2. Something to mention, based on Witcher series, the free DLCs will probably be simple stuff like a barbershop feature, which yeah, would be nice to see in game. As a matter of fact, the DLCs for Witcher 3 added a handful of things. Most of the time was some brand new armor sets for existing characters or for Geralt, a bunch of really interesting short quests which we would be able to see in Cyberpunk 2077 too, I would assume, since there's quite a few of these that have been data mined or even uncovered with the usage of mods by various YouTubers out there as well. And finally, maybe a new game plus, as that was also requested, and also one of the last features added with the Witcher 3 DLCs. Now, on the side of the expansions, right now the only thing we can hang on to is some of the content that is obviously cut or missing from the game, especially when it comes to certain areas or regions of the map. We already talked about one of them in yesterday's video with the big concept expansion and that mansion over there in North Oak that could be a part of the DLC, since right now it looks almost playable, not full playable, but there are some areas of it that you can discover, assuming that you can work through the invisible walls. But there's a few more, like for example the one in Pacifica. There's an entire neighborhood over there with huge city blocks and a ton of possible content that is completely locked behind big walls or invisible walls, and you can't really reach them without any form of cheating. Of course, there's also the big like stadium in the same area of Pacifica that could also be part of the next update, and all of the areas over there seem to be locked down or put under some kind of lockdown, maybe in preparation for some future updates. This also doesn't exclude the fact that there are some other areas outside of the Badlands that could feature some of the upcoming DLCs or updates. Again, it remains to be seen which one of these CD Projekt Red is going to go with, but let me know down below which one of them would you want to see the most. Like, do you want to go with the Pacifica expansion or maybe with the one in North Oak? Let me know down below and we will discuss about that in upcoming videos. But thank you so much for watching. This is it with the news for today. If you enjoyed this video at any point, again, it would be awesome if you left a like on it, or not, because it's your choice, and I'll see you guys in the next one.